I must have been feeling a little bit more confident today because I brought my landing net. That's probably the kiss of death. This pool usually holds a reasonable number of good fish. Well, good fish for this wee river anyway. But whether they're awake now, I don't know. That's the sun coming out again, which is a good sign. Oh, that sun feels good. But as yet hasn't managed to stir the fish into action. Oh, my indicator went down there, but I think it just got snagged up momentarily on the bottom. I had a go at fixing my leaky waders yesterday. I think I've probably managed to fix the left-hand one. Just found an abraded section just above where the boot is. Smeared some super glue into it. So far it seems to have done the trick. Oh, it's me into the bottom. Oh, well. Yeah, there's a big snag in the middle of this pool. I'm actually a good bit further upstream today. I really like this stretch, although it's got a big herd of cows here. And often have calves, so you've got to be dead careful. And of course they make an unholy mess of the riverbanks and knock them all down, and a lot it's like a quagmire. I'll maybe just fish away with the nymphs for a wee while and then maybe just sit around and observe and see if I can see any risers, but I'm not hopeful. So an absolutely stunning afternoon, just beautiful. It's the sun well out now. A little difficult to see in here, looking straight into the glare. Just run the nymphs down the seam between that slacker water right in front of me and the faster water across towards the middle. If you watched any of my wee videos for last year, you maybe recognise this spot. I caught quite a few small fish in here, but the water was much lower. In fact, this pool has changed markedly. A lot is filled in with gravel, and it seems to have shortened a bit. Really shallow over this side, with a new gravel bar developed. Casting straight in the teeth of this wind with these heavy nymphs, it's not just terribly easy. That's I've just thought a really good excuse for not catching anything today. This isn't actually a proper fishing trip. It's a weather repair test trip, and so far that's been 100% successful. So kind of in a way it doesn't matter if I catch anything or not. Don't know how convincing that sounds. Certainly doesn't convince me anyhow. Right, nothing here. I'll have a wee go a bit further up. This next run, in the summer it's usually too shallow to fish, but it looks like it might be fine today. I actually quite like this bit of the river. The banks are not overgrown. It's quite easy to get around, apart from the boggy bits that the cows have messed up. And of course the crumbling banks, which can be quite dangerous. Again, courtesy of the cows. Probably guessed, without being too observant, that I'm fishing here. I'm filming with two cameras. Got one up in the bank on a tripod. It's probably just as well that there's no cows here, because they would probably be eating the camera. Often fishing here and you get a great audience. I heard about 40 cows standing watching you. Nothing worse than cows watching you. I almost made a totally inappropriate 1970s joke there, but I remembered in the nick of time. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Right, I'll maybe just sit around and observe for a wee while. See if I can see any flies coming down. It's a bit of a forlorn hope, but you never know. To be honest with you, it's just so nice to be on the riverbank again, fish or no fish. It's certainly better than the alternatives anyway. The flies I would be looking for to hatch today on this river would be large dark olives. There are no March browns on this river at all, never have been, as far as I know. Going back to the 1960s, I can never recall seeing a March brown here. But the olives tend to hatch in the faster, shallower water, like up at the top of the run there, and then they come floating down. And sometimes the hatches can be really short-lived, 10-15 minutes, so sometimes less. I used to fish the Don in Aberdeenshire a lot when I lived up there. I've seen me being out all day at this time of year, no, April, and a hatch would come on, and in a dead river, suddenly the fish would go into a feeding frenzy, and then 5 minutes later the hatch would stop and you wouldn't think there was a single fish in the river. So if you weren't ready for that hatch, you were stuffed. You could end up with nothing at all. You had to get the fish when they were moving, stimulated into the hatch by the hatch. If you think I'm making this up as I go along, you're absolutely right. But it's true nonetheless. This can sometimes be a good spot in here. A few years ago I caught a really nice wild brown trout in here. It was about £1.5 pounds, which for this river's a pretty good fish. It's a fish catch and release, so I caught the fish, returned it. In the next 2 weeks I caught that same fish again another twice. I think it was probably getting fed up with me. You're probably asking, how do you know it's the same fish? You tell. I photographed them, all the fish, and I could tell by the spot patterns on the gill covers. It's like a fingerprint, and they're totally unique to each fish. And it most certainly was the same fish. I'll just sit around here for a wee while and keep my eyes peeled for hatching olives and rising fish. But I don't think I'll stay much longer. It just needs another week, maybe 2 weeks, before things start to waken up. Well, still nothing doing. No sign of any flies hatching at all. I just measured the water temperature, 7.5 degrees, which is 2.5 degrees up on what it was 2 days ago. So it's going in the right direction. The sun's obviously warming things up a wee bit. It certainly feels nice and warm sitting here at the moment out of the wind. It must be at least 12 degrees. It's probably just not warm. The water's probably just not warm enough yet to entice a good hatch of flies. I was speaking to one guy for the angling club, and he was fishing further down the river yesterday, and he says he saw some olives hatching and some black gnats, but there's absolutely no sign of anything here. So maybe just sit around for another half an hour or so, and if nothing happens I'll just call it a day and see you all in the next video.